Good morning, many doctors. Yeah.
Hey, dude. It's my buddy.
So I guess, my fellow staff member completely misintroduced me earlier, so I don't think the staff even knows who I am anymore.
This is Matt, who knows more about Doctor Who than, well, certainly by 1,000 times more than I know. And more about rockets. What else is you got expertise on?
I am a bit of a history buff, but...
So what happened in 1776?
Well, quite a bit, but I think the founding of America is probably the answer you're looking for.
There you are.
Though the Declaration of Independence was actually signed on July 2nd, not July 4th, but...
So you're always 2 days behind, are you?
Different time zone.
It is the story of my life, so...
What, you're 2 days behind?
Well, the staff does joke that somebody's gonna go, the late Matthew Cresswell, and they're gonna go, well, yeah, we know he's late. It's like, no, he's no longer with us. Like, he's still late.
Nice to see you all anyway.
Oh, there's Mariah there from Space Center.
Is anybody here who wasn't here yesterday? That's the sober ones then, right?
Good, I can recycle all my questions. But the main thing I want to talk to you both about is a story you did that was broadcast 30 years ago, you're both in it, called The Two Doctors.
Oh, that was fun. It was supposed to be in New Orleans, though, wasn't it? And then the
original script, yes.
And the Americans pulled the money out.
Yeah, it was the BBC distribution company here in the US called Lionheart, which had also partly funded The Five Doctors. Apparently was going to invest quite a bit of money and sell it to all the PBS stations. Then John Nathan Turner, I think, tells the story in his memoirs that he went off on a vacation, told his secretary, call me if anything happens. And he got a message saying, call me as soon as you can. And he called her and she went, yeah, the American funding has fallen through.
But they found Patrick and I were coming back.
Yeah.
That was great fun. Because Colin and I, we've known each other over the years and auditioned in different parts and stuff. And we
auditioned? I never auditioned for anything. What are you talking about?
We shared the same woman once. No, we shared the same woman once. And then you married her. That was that one.
I'm gonna get out of the middle.
Well, you better stay there. Why
you? You two can kill each other after the convention. These people have paid good money to see you two alive.
But, well, we actually had the luxury of 10 days rehearsal. And there's, seeing where Patrick is in this wheelchair, and every day, him and I used to tiptoe up and pull him out of his chair. Patrick, out of his chair. And on the 5th day, he jumped up and looked at me and said, you little shit, we should be ganging up in him. You're in my gang.
So it was like...
Apologies for the language, folks. We haven't house trained him yet.
They know what gang means, don't they?
Sadly, yes.
So, Colin, what are your memories?
Yes, now that's more like it. Yes?
What are your memories of The Two Doctors?
Did we do that? My memories of Two Doctors were the fact that we went to Spain to film it. Once...
New Orleans had fallen through, Venice fell through...
Go on, you answer it, Colin.
I'm just filling in some detail, I'm sorry.
That's all right. No, I'd rather you answered it. Might be funnier. The first thing that happened was that they mislaid the wigs. And it was quite a wig-heavy piece. You'd be delighted to know I didn't wear a wig. That ridiculous mop was mine. But most of the characters that were in most of the scenes, Cecchini and Dastari and Shockeye, all had wigs. So we couldn't film without the wigs, which meant that for 2 days we had to sit around by the pool. They made us have alcohol. They made us get in the pool and play games.
Oh, yeah.
We played Doctor and Companion, where the companion sits on the doctor's shoulders and you wrestle till one pair falls in the water. All I can say is I felt very sorry for Patrick. And I had Nicola Bryant to wrap around. So,
There are pictures of this online.
yes. And we won, I think, didn't we?
You did.
Yes. She's a tough competitor, young Nicola. So it was 2 days of a holiday, really. And then we started work. It was very hot. I remember it being, mind you, having come to this fair city, I've rediscovered the meaning of hot. But when you're working on a film set, and very often there wasn't any cover, it was very hard not to end up with my very fair skin, looking like a tomato.
And we did have to do a lot of running around, looking for monsters and chasing up and down. But we did, as Colin said, we lost those 2 days. And then one night, Peter Moffat, director, came into the bar and he said, right, we've shot everything now, but we can't go home because the charter plane is not for another 2 days, the hotel is booked for another 2 days. So I suggest you all go to your rooms, look at the scripts, and you see anything that is in the studio that we think we can put on location. So we all went to our rooms. I think, Colin, you found that scene where you were listening outside and you fell over the beer crate. That's supposed to be in the studio. Colin said, well, no, why don't I listen outside? And we all sort of did more stuff, and there was more location than there was in the studio, because even though we'd lost those 2 days filming, we just galloped through, and all the scenes were done in one take, and we caught up 2 days.
I have no memory of that whatsoever. But now you tell me, I do remember that being the case, yes.
Yeah.
But it was joy, and I got to work with the best actor in the country, Patrick Troughton. And
As the second best.
because he did the hardest job. He was the guy who did the first regeneration, and if he hadn't done it with the style, panache, and sheer brilliance that he did, you'd be sitting here looking at an empty stage. Well, Matt would be sitting there going, why am I here? Because there wouldn't have been 50 years of Doctor Who. Pat Troughton single-handedly ensured that happened. And he was a lovely man. I'd known him slightly before, because I'd shared a flat as a young actor with his son, David Troughton, who was in Curse of Peladon.
Curse of Peladon, and more recently in a David Tennant episode called Midnight.
There you go. And I was his best man when he got married, so I met Pat at the wedding. And he was just a very special man. I mean, for instance, I said to him once, I said, do you know, Pat, I don't recall seeing your name on a marquee outside a theatre. He said, oh, no, I don't do theatre acting. All that shouting in the evening. Isn't that a wonderful definition of theatre acting? Shouting in the evening. He's got a point there. Television's much more civilised.
Well, he was one of the first UK actors to actually just make a living doing television. He did tons of live television in the 1950s.
And an awful lot of films, of course.
Yes.
He's the priest who gets skewered by the crucifix that falls off the top of Guildford Cathedral.
In The Omen, yeah.
In The Omen, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. That was after Who, though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. But he was
Otherwise,
Robin Hood, wasn't
if you've done it before, you'd be dead.
he was the original Robin Hood, I think.
Yeah, on British television, and that was where he first became sort of a big star. He was and in fact, for those of you who've seen the Peter Capaldi episode, Robot of Sherwood, when Capaldi's doctor is actually getting on the computer and is trying to show the Robin Hood character, and there's this, you're this big legendary figure, and blah, blah, blah. One of the images that pops up on screen is Patrick Troughton.
Oh, really?
playing Robin Hood.
Oh, how lovely.
And in Seville, we were assigned 2 police officers to look after the traffic and all that. And the first day we said, you want to join us for lunch? No, we're sitting here at 5. The second day, no, we were having lunch with a bottle of wine. By the 4th day, come and join us. So, okay, by the 6th day, they were sitting down for lunch. And at the very last day of filming, these 2 coppers came up and said, for a few days, we think all English people, football hooligan, we know like English. You have showed not all English are horrible hooligans, and we like you. And we
What
ended
part
up,
of Lithuania were they from?
And we've got photographs of Nicola Bryant handcuffed, hitting one over the head with his truncheon, and wearing his hat back to front. They just completely fell for it, and they loved us after that.
Was that a common experience when you would go out on location to film, even in your day, going around the UK filming? And of course, I can then send that same question over to you, Colin.
What, they thought we were football hooligans?
I mean, did you find, filming that, you would have people come up to you and whatnot and recognize, oh, you're the doctor and so forth?
Yes. And they would sometimes do it in the middle of a shot, and you'd want to kill them. But it's not very often that we were filming in modern contemporary situations when I was doing it. So it was usually, even though it was location, it would be something like the Bristol Museum, which was dedicated to the Industrial Revolution.
So that was for Mark of the Rani.
For Mark of the Rani. So the only people who were there were the people who worked there. So, I don't think I did much that involved my being in the streets of contemporary Britain.
Yeah, there's some scenes in the beginning of Attack of the Cybermen, for example, when you're running up and down the street.
Yeah, but the floor assistants are very good at keeping the public away. They know that I'm a demigod, and they all want to hurl themselves adoringly at my feet.
But instead, you get stuck in a factory, a pottery factory in the middle of the night, shooting Trial of the Time Lords.
Exactly. Great fun.
In Seville, I came in the lift one morning about 6 o'clock to catch the coach. I had my kilts on, a sword and claymore knife. And as I got in the lift, there was an American guy, baseball cap, drinking a can of Coke, and he looked at me and went, "I'm Scotch too, And he obviously thinks that Scotsmen go on holiday to Spain in kilts and swords.
Mind you were wearing a kilt at the time.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying, yes. But I'm wearing
So it's a perfectly logical thing for him to say.
Well, not really.
If you saw somebody in a lift in a kilt,
with a claymore and a sword
you'd say,
and a shield.
I'm Scottish too. Yeah. You might say that.
And I thought, where are you
He was
going?
probably trying to keep you away from him. Get you on your side, This man is a lunatic. I will identify with him.
Spain does have a lot of castles, it must be said. But at least on location in Seville, as hot as it was, they at least got you out of the coat for a bit, because I imagine that probably would have been the death of it.
That was my idea. I said, could I please get rid of this? It was the only location we were ever on where I was really not happy because usually you film me in Britain in the freezing cold, and that coat was quite useful for that. And Nicola would come and snuggle under it to keep warm. Hell. It was hell, guys, I tell you.
I was going to say, because I put together Sylvester McCoy's costume, and I have to say it is quite clearly something designed for freezing cold weather, not June in Alabama.
Correct.
All right, I think I'm going to get out of the middle here for a few minutes.
Oh.
So
I'm going to circulate.
I am. I think there's
Are
probably
they feral?
Well, at least the people on stage are.
Seize him and tear him to shreds.
Put me out of my misery, please. All right, do we have any questions? I see Rick in the back. Rick, you always have questions.
Rick in the back. I've got a Rick in the back as well.
Good morning, gentlemen. Thanks for coming to Huntsville. Wanted to ask you a question. In the Two Doctors, one of the most striking characters, without a doubt, was the gentleman who played Shockeye. Really threw himself into the role to a degree that he is one of the more memorable and almost disturbing villains of that era. What can you tell us about that gentleman and working with him and what he brought to the experience?
John Stratton, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was a very well-known British actor.
Oh, yeah.
And he was what you would call a character actor.
Yeah.
So he hurled himself into it, as he did with most things he did. He was quite a quiet man, wasn't he?
Yes, he wasn't a man for jokes and stuff and leaping up. It was just he got on with the job. And,
Yeah.
But he loved all the Anglican stuff with
And having Rice Krispies stuck on his face. Because the Androgons, do you call them Rice Krispies here? Yes. Or Ricicles? They were just stuck, because in the heat, they kept falling off, didn't they?
Yeah. And then when you killed him, there's a bit of a furore that, you know, the doctor, when you smothered him. And,
Yeah, I liked all the killing. For me, it was like playing cowboys and Indians, you see. It wasn't my job to be a guardian of morality of television. So, you know, I'd have loved to have jumped on their back and chopped their heads off, but I wasn't allowed to, mostly. And I do quite concede the Doctor doesn't necessarily do that, which is why my favourite line in the whole of Doctor Who is the Christopher Eccleston line at the end of The Empty Child and the Doctor dances, and nobody dies. That one. Everybody lives.
Everybody lives.
Everyone lives. Everybody lives. For me, that was the best story ever. That pairing. The day after that was broadcast in Britain, I was in a school. I was a school governor of a primary school, and all the children in the playground were going around going, "Are you my mummy?" And I thought, they've got it right. Doctor Who's back again, because all the kids had been gripped by it, and it does. You can bring my coffee.
I was gonna wait till you're done talking.
I'll call you Hebe, the cupbearer to the gods. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Oh, don't you have one? Let's compare sizes.
That's the only place you're bigger than me.
Like ego, you mean, things like that. What was I saying? For me, what Doctor Who gets it right for me, when children are scared to the point where their parents are a bit worried, but not very worried. And the person who does that best, I think, is Roald Dahl. Roald Dahl knew how to terrify children. And if you think about literature throughout the ages, children's stories, all those grim fairy tales, you know, that we all, well, people in my generation, you know, people being shoved in the oven by witches, and that was, you know, how young minds adjust through bizarre fiction to the realities of life. And Doctor Who is helping in doing that. And I really do think they've got the scare factor about right again. They were a bit worried for a while that it was, you know, it was getting a little bit too scary for children. Children deserve, or need to be scared. And they should be terrified daily. Because then they appreciate what they've got at home. I remember saying to a child who was misbehaving in a supermarket, I went up to him, his mother was having a terrible time, and it was when I was playing the Doctor, and I said, well, I can only protect you if you're nice. I'm afraid the Daleks might get you if I'm not around to protect you, and if you're being horrid to your mummy, I might have to. I'll be good, I'll be good. Nice, aren't I?
That is something I do want to ask about, which is, of course, both of your eras to some extent came in for heavy criticism from a woman who's not very well known here in the States, but was for a while very well known in the UK, named Mary Whitehouse, who was a self-appointed sort of protector of morals and whatnot on British television. I mean, what was your reaction to her criticisms of both of your eras?
Well, I think we had the same era, didn't we?
Yeah, yes. Yeah.
We coincided. Our eras were coalesced. Well, my reaction is that she was a well-intentioned but fundamentally wrong woman. And what she would do now about what's on television, and to a certain extent, I'd be on her side now. Television's gone in many areas beyond, you know, what I feel comfortable. I mean, when I was in my teens, if I was watching a television program on my own in a room, a perfectly innocuous TV program, and the door opened and in came my mother, at that moment there would be kissing going on the screen. And she'd be going, oh, you're watching that sort of thing, are you? And went out. And it was the only time it had ever happened in the wretched programme. Well, now, of course, it's not kissing that we're witnessing. And I've got 4 daughters, and if they're watching something, I just know better than to go in. Because they'll be mortified that I walk in at the wrong time. And in fact, one of my daughters, who's now 27, and I'm a bit older than that, when we shared tastes in television, and I said to her that I'd watched Deadpool on the plane coming over, and she said, did you enjoy it? I said, yes, and she said, but I bet you wouldn't have wanted to watch it with us, would you? And I said, no, I wouldn't. You're quite right.
But with the Mary at White House thing, once the episode's gone out, nothing you can do. The episode's gone out, it's over. You can complain about last night's episode, it's gone. We're on to next week's episode, so it didn't really matter.
All right, I saw a hand up right here, I think.
In all forms of Doctor Who, books and audio and everything else, and including Matthew here, the first thing noticed about the 6th Doctor is his outlandish outfit. It's commented all the time, and some people absolutely hate it, don't you, Matthew?
Matthew, I'm on your side here. I think for someone to out you like that as a 60 costume hater,
I just wonder what was
is
your
unkind.
reaction? What was your reaction when you
Stop deflecting!
when they presented you with that costume?
I was asked what I would like to wear. John said, go away and have a think about the kind of costume you'd like to wear. And the first thing I said was, do I have to wear a costume? Can't I wear clothes? You know? And they said, no, it has to be a costume because we don't want to replace what you wear every week. So you have to wear the same thing in every episode. It's a budget-driven thing. You know, obviously they had to get costumes for all the new characters in a new story. If they don't have to worry about the Doctor and his companion, and they can wear the same old thing day in, day out. I mean, we never see him going to the laundry room, do we? But every single Doctor from time immemorial must stink. And how dull to wear the same. I mean, there were little tweaks. I got a new waistcoat if they had £20 spare in the budget, that kind of thing. So they said, no, it's the tradition. So I suggested something which is pretty much what Christopher Eccleston ended up with. I thought the Doctor would probably like to disappear into the background on occasion. You know, there are thousands of screaming aliens desperate to tear him apart. If you're wearing a long black cloak, you can go whoop and disappear into a corner. And John listened to me. In the same way as my father listened to me when I was 18 and I said I wanted to be an actor, and I told him how I intended to do that. And he said, you start in the lawyer's office on Monday. I went, oh, all right. Well, John Nathan Turner listened to me describing my costume I'd like to wear, my all-black costume. And he said, no, that's what the master wears. I think you should be totally tasteless. Well, it's his programme, okay. And there was a lovely designer called Pat Godfrey who was given the task of designing something totally tasteless. And she went away and kept coming back with, colourful but tasteful drawings, apparently. Excuse me. And John went, no, not tasteless enough. And in the end, she got the coloured pencils out and went, oh, you mean something like that? Thinking he'd go, oh, no. Yes, he said. And that's what I ended up with. The consolation being I was on the inside looking out. And for years and years and years, it was a cross I carried, and I was appalled by it, quite frankly. Bear in mind, it was the 80s. The 80s, I mean, look at the fashion and the pop culture in the 80s. And what people wore then, in those terms, it was quite tame. But now there's a dividend, because now we have the BBC has got its act together, and we have toys, and we have little model figures. And the kids love the colourful one, don't they? And as I get 0.00000000000000001 of a penny for each one sold, then I am pence richer because of it. So it's come through for me in the end.
We should mention Big Finish did eventually give you a new costume.
Yes, I
At least
love
on
that.
audio.
And I got a new costume on audio. They give me an all blue costume.
Yes, it happened because you were in something called Real Time, which was a slightly animated webcast, and apparently the colorist on that, because of the timetable, simply could not color your entire coat in time.
Is that the reason?
I've read that. And it's
What a load of baloney they gave me. You've always wanted a new, we're going to give you one. I should have known.
I'm sorry to have spoiled your illusions.
Does that costume going about this weekend? Andy, the guy with the little
Yes.
with the harpo.
Yeah, and they've
wig.
actually made an action figure of that version as well.
Yes, they have. Amazing. Desperately trying to extract money from fans. Let's do another picture of Colin with his toes sticking out the end of his boot. That'll get another £10 million for us.
Well, they did do a version of your action figure as well, of you and Peter Davison's outfit from the Twin Dilemma as well, so.
They did?
Yes?
What about the kilt and acting in that the whole time?
Yes, well, that was all right. I didn't mind the kilt. They did say after about a year I could get rid of the kilt. But I thought, no, if I start wearing trousers, then I start wearing jeans, then I wear my own jeans, my own boots, and suddenly it's just Fraser with a Scottish accent. So I wanted to keep the kilt all the time. It was a bit difficult at times, so climbing up ladders and stuff, but the cameramen were always kind to me, because I always said, you can't show, because him being a Highlander would not be wearing anything under his kilt. But because it's children's TV at 5:15, you know, I'd have to wear something, so it's better you just don't see at all. So you just kept all the camera angles safe.
Well, I was going to bring up the helicopter scene from The Invasion, where you had to climb a rope ladder.
That's right, and I was worried because the downdraft and the kilt will go up here, and they said, right, you go up the ladder first. I went, no, he wouldn't do that. He'd let the young girl first. He's a gentleman. So Sally Faulkner went first, and her miniskirt went up like that, climbed the ladder, cut, break for lunch, and I thought, me next. So my dresser was fishing, and I'd read that the Queen of England has lead weights sewn into the hem of her dresses to stop you seeing the royal thigh on a windy day. So I got him to put all these lead weights into my kilt, and at the end of the lunch they said, no rehearsal, cue the helicopter, in you go, and I clanked on, boom, boom, boom. The ladder came down, and I climbed up the ladder, and my kilt hung down like a safety curtain in a theatre. And the cameraman was looking, thinking, well, the camera's wrong. You know, didn't believe it.
All right, any more questions? Okay, I see right here, I think. Somewhere.
Run, Matthew, run.
It's been a long weekend. Okay, who had their hand up?
The lady at the back, on your right. On your right.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
For about 20 years now, we've been enjoying, both of you, your adventures in Big Finish, which are wonderful. So I have a question for each of you. First of all, Mr. Baker, do you have some sort of world domination plan in mind by appearing in every single Big Finish range and forcing me to buy it? Because you're wonderful in all of them, and you just keep doing them. But could both of you talk a little bit about working with Big Finish? I mean, Fraser, I was just listening to you this morning on your new Companion Chronicles box set.
Which one? Oh, I haven't seen it yet. Normally they send us a box set, you know, and you can listen to it. And I haven't got it
The
yet.
downloads app, so it's brand new. And would you talk a little bit about recreating the Second Doctor, because that's just been amazing.
Well, originally my first ever one was Helican Prime, and I read the first 3 pages as a doctor, you know, hello, good morning, and did Jamie's voice. And then Nigel Frazer, the actor, he was directing it, and he said, I'm just going to listen to those first 3 pages back. So while he was doing that, I started to read it to myself as Patrick. And he went, oh, Fraser, you sound like Patrick Troughton. I said, well, I do Patrick's voice when I'm doing this sort of, look at the size of that thing, Doctor. Yes, Jamie, it is a big one. We do this sort of gag. He went, do the first 3 pages again as Patrick. So I did it. He went, keep it like that. So it was Nigel Frazer, his idea for me to do the Patrick thing. And I was, for me, I get paid to do Jamie, but for Patrick, I don't get any money. I just do it for the love of the guy and keeping his memory alive for all the fans who buy the audios. And to me, I can't wait to get the script and see what Patrick and I are up to next. Jamie, my voice suddenly goes, going to the booth, and suddenly it goes up like this, and doctor, and then, yes. And I just argue with myself, which is great fun. It's good fun. People say, is it hard work? I go, no, going down a mine is hard work, or chopping down trees, it's not hard work. We just go in and when we did one of our stories, the turtle was going to be running from somebody. We looked at each other, we're in the booth, yes, come on, Jamie, yes, Dodd. I mean, oh, wait.
Yes, world dominance. I think I'm cheaper than the others, so they get me to do. That is partly true, actually. But I just love doing them. If I could do a big finish every week for the rest of time, I would be perfectly happy, because I've never yet encountered a script that was less than better than the stuff I got on television. Every single script. And then the people who are writing them are largely people who were fans when I was doing it on television. If ever there was a genre in which the people who are the customers become the providers, it's the whole range of Doctor Who stuff, because the number of directors, writers, editors, technicians who come to work on Doctor Who in all its forms because of loving it when they were young is far greater than any other profession, I think. And it's a joy to work with them, because they're all working on something they love, as are we.
And Lisa Bowerman directs most of them, and I'm always trying to get in a Doctor thing or what Jamie was. No, Fraser, it's not in the script. No, you can't. It's not in the script. And we got to one line, the Lords of the Red Planet, and I said, Lisa, is John Dorney the writer? Yes, he's sitting beside me. I said, right, you cannot cut this next line. She said, why? What is it? It says, the Doctor and Jamie are looking at the rocket ship. The Doctor says, yes, Jamie, it is a big one, isn't it? I went, yes! And you got that line in. Can't cut it out. So there's some writers, they get those little witticisms in from the Jamie and the Doctor.
I believe there was a gentleman in the middle with his hand up. So, I think we can meet in the middle. Don't blink.
I had a question about the 5-ish Doctors, the little spoof you guys did, and I was wondering whose idea was it? Did they try to talk you into it, or was it sort of a collaborative effort?
It was Peter Davison's idea. We had been meeting each other regularly at conventions, places like this, and in a kind of desultory way, as the months were further away, going, "Do you know anything about the celebrations for these 50th? No, have you? No. They haven't asked you to do it then? No. And as we got closer and closer to the event, it got, have you not heard anything? Do you know what they're going to do? Do they want us? And it gradually became perfectly clear that we were not wanted on voyage. And at that point, Peter, who had done some funny Spanish films before, because he's a bit of a techno geek. He loves. I remember I went on holiday with Peter. Well, it was holiday for him, but I was doing a play with his then wife, and so my wife and he and our families all went down to Torquay, south of England, for a week, and they did the beach and stuff while we were slogging our guts out on stage. And we've got videos of that, and the videos don't have Peter in, because he was filming them the whole time. He was on the beach, he was filming, he was in the cafes filming, on the Esplanade filming. So we've got these wonderful films made by Peter. So he's always loved, working with cameras and stuff. And he did some who heard all this story yesterday? I'll try and keep it short. Sorry to repeat it. But basically what he had done, he couldn't go to a convention in Los Angeles. So he made a little film to send them. And it was a film of him sitting in his dressing room in the West End when he was doing Legally Blonde and saying, I'm sorry, I can't be there tonight, but as you can see, I'm in my dressing room here in the West End. And as he was saying this, the door opened and in came Sheridan Smith, who was the star of the show, and saying, what are you doing in my dressing room, Peter? And he went, sorry. And we follow him down the corridor to his infinitely inferior dressing room. He carries on, and then it cuts to a rather elegant sitting room where he continues to apologise and to wish them well. And the door opens there, and in comes David Tennant saying, what are you doing in my house, Peter? And it's a succession of Peter being where he shouldn't, trying to convince the people watching that his lifestyle was superior to what it actually was. And it was him poking fun at himself. And it was very funny. I remember being shown. Have you seen it?
Yes, very funny.
It's brilliant. So, you know, he had a track record. And he said, well, let's do one for the fans, ourselves. He said, I've got some ideas, and he wrote it. And sent it to Sylvester, myself, Paul and Tom. Tom, because originally it was going to be the Five Doctors reboot. Tom made it clear he wasn't that bothered, thank you very much, kindly go away. Paul said, yeah, what a great idea. And then unbeknown to us, Paul was invited to do his regeneration that he'd never had, which was, I don't know if you saw it, a lovely 15-minute film, but he was sworn to secrecy, so he couldn't tell the rest of us. So he kind of got embarrassed about it, made himself less available, I'm working, I'm doing this. So his appearance in the thing is somewhat more peripheral than was originally intended. But Sylvester, Peter and I soldiered on. Sylvester and I made a few suggestions for alterations. And our families were included, which I rather liked, and it just came together very well. And it's the only thing I've ever done in my career that I willingly watched more than twice. And in fact, every time I watch it, it makes me laugh again. We're asked a lot whether we would do another one, and the answer is yes, but that would have to be fun. Everyone did it for nothing. The first one. I mean, it really was a gift from us to the fans to celebrate the anniversary. And also a gift to ourselves, in a way, because we love doing it. And all those lovely people said, oh, can we be in it? And Peter started asking people, and they jumped at it. So it's a very special piece, but you can't do that twice. So if we did follow up on that, it would have to be funded properly. Because we'd have to pay all the technicians this time. You can't keep playing it's for the fans. and also it would have to be a story as good, if not better, than the previous one. And that's the hard bit, coming up with a new good idea. But the three of us do kind of work quite well together. Disparate shapes and types, and there's something inherently funny about the three of us side by side, marching down that corridor in the BBC.
Dalek going out the back.
I'm boring a Dalek to death. Sorry to bore you, Dalek.
But that was better than the one that went out on the BBC.
Well, you could very well say that. I couldn't possibly comment.
All right, I think we have time for a couple more questions. Okay, I saw all the way on that end. Hang on. And this is where I get my exercise for the weekend.
I wanted to know how both of you feel about interacting with a more or less egocentric and closed-off actor as Tom Baker, because I know that you're not exactly his biggest
I
fan.
wonder where that was going for a minute.
I know.
I thought you were asking you about me.
Yes, in the Two Doctors,
Yeah, I noticed that everyone in Doctor Who kind of pushes him in a corner, and I want to know what your guys' opinion
Well, I
is
would
of him.
argue with that. He puts himself in the corner. We don't put him in the corner. We advance upon the corner occasionally, and I have to say, I'm hearing that he's mellowed. He played the part for 7 years, and it became woven through his very being almost. And for many people, he is the Doctor, and that's quite heady, I guess. I'm made of different stuff. I don't take anything seriously, least of all myself. But Tom is by default a serious person. I mean, I've had conversations with him where I felt that I was 12 and he was 70 because of the depth of his thinking and his knowledge. I certainly know that Louise Jameson, who didn't enjoy working with him on television, is now doing Big Finish audios with him and loving him. I mean, he is actually saying to people, I was a bit of an unpleasant so-and-so, wasn't I? I'm sorry. And he is now charming. I wish I'd done that, you know. Spent my entire life being horrible. And then suddenly be nice when you're old and people think, oh, isn't he lovely? I've wasted my whole life being pleasant.
Where's it got you? Where's it got you?
Where's it got me? But, you know, he's not a bad man. He's not an easy man. He wasn't an easy man. And certainly Doctor Who, when he was making it, he had, the reason why Peter and I had very little input, because by the end of Tom's time as the Doctor, he was really ruling the roost, rewriting scenes, and people weren't standing up to him. And of course, you know, if you're a strong and talented person, which he is, you need people who will stand up and say no occasionally. Otherwise, you get the wrong idea about what the work is about. I'm a great believer in writers writing, actors acting, and directors directing. And you may discuss, you know, ways of improving it, you know, to mutual advantage. But I hate when I hear the actors on a set insisting that this line is changed or threatening to walk off.
Or don't look him in the eye. If he walks on the set, don't look him in the
Yes.
eye. What? But how can you say to an actor, can we just do the lines while we're lighting? No, don't ask the question. Well, you both got to do this scene to the best of your ability.
I'd say that doesn't happen in England.
No, it's American, yes, it's more.
That's more the big American, some big American stars. You are told not to look them in the eye. In the scene, when you're acting, you're allowed to.
Yeah.
I imagine, I don't know. I'm afraid I wouldn't last long on a set like that.
No, you would have gone.
I'd go,
hello.
oh, you've got funny eyes, haven't you? I can see now why you don't want people looking at them. Oh dear.
We have time for one more question.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you.
I got to go first.
Sorry, Matthew.
I said two worse.
This is for Colin. You did a
give me the
convention. Sorry, Fraser. You did a convention tour with Tom Baker once. Did you guys get along then? Yes, you did.
Yes, that was hysterical. We didn't talk to him for the first 10 days. Right, anyone recording this, turn it off. Put that camera down and turn it off. No recording of this, please. Otherwise I won't tell you. The first time I ever met Tom Baker was in a stretch limo at an airport somewhere in America. I'd been on a plane coming in. He was on another plane coming in. I was in the car first. He got in, we said hello, and he turned to me and he said, listen, I've been thinking. I think it's insulting to fans to reduce the relationship between the fan and the actor to a scrawl on a piece of paper. I think we should refuse to sign autographs. I think it's much more important that we meet people, take them by the hand, look in their eyes, and exchange what it is to be a human being with each other. I said, yeah, that sounds nice, Tom. Yeah, that sounds nice, but I think you'll find that they quite like the name on the piece of paper, because they can take it away and said, I've met lovely Tom Baker who looked in my eyes and exchanged what it is to be a... And there, I can prove it because he did this. And he said to me, if you think that, you're a fool. And he turned and looked out the window, and he didn't speak to me for a week. I have to say, it made me laugh. And it ended, bizarrely, in Grand Central Station in New York. We were in one of those long coffee bar places where all the seats are up against the bar. And there was he and I and 5 other people who were the producers of the touring show. He was at one end, I was at the other. And a voice from behind said, "Mr. Baker?" And we both turned around and said, "Yes." Oh. And it was me. It was an expat who was living in America who had watched a series I did in the 70s called The Brothers. And he got really excited. And for some reason, that tickled Tom. And he said that was quite funny. And then he kind of allowed me to talk to him. But yeah, it was strange.
And on that bombshell, we'll bring the candles to a close.
No, I think we should have one question for Fraser.
Okay, one question for Fraser.
There you are.
I'll get you in the middle.
Trust me.
Oh, me?
No,
yes.
okay.
Fraser, if they asked you to come back as the 13th Doctor, would you do it, and what would it be like?
I'd be very rich, wouldn't I?
You would nowadays,
yes. Oh, it'd be terrific. Of course it would be. Any actor, I think, or actress probably, would worth their salt. If somebody said, "Do you want to be the 13th?"
We can't have another Scottish one.
No, I play English. I play English, yes. Well, of course, I'd love to do it. Of course, I would do it, yeah. And it would be great. No, it would be great because the budgets are bigger. The one thing I'd probably find a bit difficult is we had sets to act in. Nowadays, it's just like a green screen. So they say, now behind you is a Mars space station, and there's a door there. But at least we had sets and...
I didn't look at them. I didn't look at the sets.
Oh, I did. I walked in.
Like a green screen.
What am I acting? Yeah. But yeah, they've got green screens nowadays.
But you're right, you would be rich. It's a bit like the footballers of my childhood. You know, the most famous footballer in Britain retired at the age of 40 on a salary of £50 a week. Now you get £50 a second playing football. It's the same with Doctors Who. Now you're a millionaire if you get to play the Doctor. That was not the case in our day, was it?
No. We were poundaires.
Yes, poundaires.
Yes. Anyway, Joe, that was the last question. Thank you, everybody, for...
You've been delightful. Thank you very much.